Welcome back to Rinkside. This is episode number 9. It's awesome to think that only a few weeks ago we were at episode 1 and we're about to 10x it in the upcoming episode. Chewie is with me this evening and it's going to be an impactful one. Chewie, how you doing?
Good potty, good potty. How are you?
Hey, doing awesome this evening. We've got a special program for you put together. Um, And starting off, thanks to those who watched us co host the GOHLS Season 4 awards ceremony. That was a special moment for both myself and Chewie, and we look forward to hopefully doing it again. We're joined this evening by Eskola, who is hosting the GOHLS draft for the third time. We're going to start off with the plays of the week, featuring plays from the World Cup and Prospect Showcase, then transition into the history and lore of GOHLS draft with Eskola. Finally, we'll rank draft picks for the upcoming draft with Chewie, myself, Eskola, Leathers, Grims, and McRoss. Let's hop in to the plays of the week. Here it starts off. Big old massive hit. Anderson's got the puck to Meister. Meister's coming up the ice, coming across the defense. Oh, hits it. And who comes in at a 90-degree angle is no other than Eskola, our featured guest. What a play. Meister takes a shot, and magically, from the right side to the left, Eskola comes in. Number 2.
Awesome. Number two, we got Winkler on the draw with Not Satisfied, ties it up, gives it to Mojo, and Mojo goes on the top left corner. You see this face-off play all the time. Usually the players go up for the right side. Mojo went right over the glove of Brody to put it in.
Great play. Next up, we got Potty. Oh, Potty fires a rocket. It's a miracle. It probably broke his hand that he caught it, but somehow the other team gets the puck. Henry's got it. Henry takes a shot. Easy block right there. Garrett Jr.'s coming up. He sees Potty. He knows, Potty, I got you. I got you. Just keep on going forward. Gray takes a shot. Boom, miracle man. Potty comes in to seal the deal. Watch this again. We've got a massive shot by Potty, and then Henry comes up. What I really like about this play, aside from the fact that I scored a goal, was that it really showed the demonstration of teamwork. So when that pass just happened, you had 3 people, the forward, line, come in and execute that. Then we've got, I'm sorry, you want me to start that again?
Yep, we got the same. Oh,
Oh,
same game. We got the USA North versus Euro. This one's a little bit of a long one, but USA North puts pressure on Europe, makes a few passes, gives it over to Lindros, and then you're going to give it back over to Gray here eventually. Reed to Gray. Gray snipes it from almost the blue line right over the blocker of Mike Twinscrew. That was a beautiful goal there by Gray, and showing that she is one of the purest snipers in this league.
what a fantastic goal. I think it's worth watching it just one more time, even though it is a bit, but damn. It's kind of the length of time you got to watch it is equivocal to the length of distance she was from the goal. So let's move in to this one from the second blue line. We've got the North coming in. They kind of lose it, but then Phillips takes the shot. Cornwall, okay, here we go. Phillips could easily just wrap that bad boy around, but instead, RGJ, the Butcher, demolishes one from that other blue line. And I thought that was probably one of the most powerful, like, seat feeling goals on an empty net that I've seen so far. Usually they barely creep in, but this one came in like a rocket. So next up, we've got Chewie with this play.
Yep. So now we got going into the draft showcase here. Looks like Quebec just kind of gives it the puck away, but Alberta's able to capitalize here. They got a cross crease pass over to Woods, and Woods with a nice slide and tap right behind the goalie. You can see right here, Quebec just kind of fumbles it, and Alberta pressures hard and takes advantage of this to get 2-on-1 and to get that backdoor tap in.
Perfect. Backdoor tap in the woods. That's what I'm talking about. Now we've got McConan coming in, or Meekinen coming in with the swoop de doop and scores. I don't know who won the game, but I do know that that was a beautiful play. Meekinen showcasing his talents once again. And that wraps up our plays of the week. So now let's move into our segment on the season 5 draft with Onni Eskola. And welcome back to Rinkside. We're here with Onni Eskola. Onni, how you doing this evening?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on here. I'm excited to talk about the draft.
Yeah, the draft. We're here to talk about the history and lore of the GOHLS draft. And, why don't you just put a stake in the ground and get us, from the start, when did the GOHLS draft first begin?
Yeah, so obviously since the league started back before season one, we've always had a draft of some kind. The startup draft was done over a number of days behind closed doors, and then we did sort of a live reveal, kind of pretended the draft was live at the time. And then, yeah, once we kind of got towards season two, the season two rookie draft, and everything after that has been a truly live draft. And it's evolved from being no faces, just voices with just the owners, to now all the work that Access puts in to make this beautiful draft show with the hosts' faces and all kinds of guests and graphics and things like that. And yeah, it's really come a long way.
Wow. I didn't, I guess I'm looking forward to seeing it. When's it coming up? This Saturday?
Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern time.
Oh,
Yeah,
excellent. That'll be tomorrow when this is published.
awesome.
So about the draft is so does like I guess how many players have gone through the draft? Are we looking at every single player in their league, or what are we looking at?
Yeah, most would have gone through some sort of draft process. There was a number of them claimed off of waivers, which is when there's an unaffiliated minor player called up to a pro spot. But yeah, I'd say as far as total number of players that have been drafted in this league, we're in the hundreds for sure. Obviously, the first draft had 70 something. I want to say season two, close to the same number. Season three, I think, was over 100. And yeah, now we're looking at about 60 or 70 or something in that range for this one, I think, plus the affiliation drafts and things like that as well.
Nice. So you'd say like above 95% of players been drafted, or
Uh,
even less.
Above 90 for sure, I think I'd say.
Yeah.
Have been through at least some form of a draft, whether that was like the affiliation draft that happened behind closed doors last season, or one of the true live drafts that we've seen.
Sweet.
And what are the options for a player that enters the draft? What are the outcomes that could occur?
Yeah, so this season is the first time we're having the pro draft and the affiliation draft in one because there's so few pro roster spots open. And so basically, a player who enters the draft right now, there's three possible outcomes really. One is you get drafted to a team that has a pro opening and you sign a pro contract and you're playing in the big leagues next season. Second, which is the most common one that we'll see, is players being drafted to a team that's already full for pro, and you'll become a minor league affiliate, play for their minor league team, and then eventually, hopefully, obviously, be called up at some point for them, whether it's this season or next season or later. And then the third option, which right now looks like maybe three or four people, hopefully no one, but there's a possibility that some players go undrafted. And at that point, if they do go undrafted, they would be assigned to a minor league team, just like we did with new players all season long.
If a
Sweet.
player, quick question here, if a player were to
Yeah.
go undrafted, would they have it like, would it be preference for them to go back to their original team, or would it be divided amongst the stackings of the the draft results?
Yeah, like the draft results will play a role. Obviously, like positional needs, like we're not going to put a fifth or sixth right winger on a team if another team doesn't have any right wingers, for example. Same with archetypes and things like that we look at. But yeah, if it's close between two teams and a player played in the minors last season, I'd probably put them back with the group that they were with. But the other side of that is I'd be pretty surprised if the couple players going undrafted were playing in the minors last
Mm.
season.
Sweet. Yeah, I think there's about 6 or 7 pro roster spots that you could see minors drafted up to. So that's cool to see some. I think next season there'll be under 20 rookies in the league, which will also be very interesting because I think this season we had probably close to 40 or 50. So I think it'll be the smallest rookie class in goals. So you kind of talked about the original draft was offline and presented as live. Is there any other changes from the original, I guess, original goals draft and original prospect draft that has changed till now that you'd like to touch on?
Yeah, things in this league are always changing. The startup draft, obviously, like it was done behind closed doors, and there was only 6 teams, and we were only drafting for 15 roster spots each, I think. And now we're up to 16 teams with 19 roster spots per team, and all sorts of 5 affiliates per team. Yeah, like, and then obviously the production has gone way up, like I mentioned earlier. And then yeah, obviously the affiliation is a big change that really hasn't been, I guess, something we've seen until the last couple drafts. So that definitely changed from the first couple ones as well.
So
Yeah, you mentioned the production. It definitely from the first draft till now. I mean, I think season 3 was when the first time you guys started a production with you and Jess hosting, and
Mhm.
that was good. And last season was even better. And I've seen some spoilers for tomorrow's draft. And yeah, I think it's going to be the best show we've had yet. So that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, and just a quick huge shout out to Dave Axis. He's been season 3 was the first one he took over producing, and he does a whole lot of work behind the scenes for us. I got talking to him about this draft, I want to say over a month in advance to start getting ready. And every draft, I don't think he can do better than what he did, and he somehow finds a way to top it. So, huge shout out to him and all the work he does behind the scenes.
Sweet. Thanks, Dave.
yeah, big shout out over there. And one of the things you mentioned was the affiliate draft, and I'm curious, when did the affiliate drafts first start?
Yeah, so the first one, I believe, was actually that first one that Axis produced, which was the season 3 draft. And the way that the affiliate draft worked back then, we kind of threw 2 rounds because that's how many affiliates we had, enough for 2 per team. So we just kind of added 2 rounds to the end of the draft show, kind of dragged out the draft a little bit, was kind of the feedback we got a little bit long. So then the following season, so season four's draft, we had, I think, enough for 5 affiliates each this past season, and we decided that adding that to the end of the existing draft would have been too long for a lot of people, especially the hosts and the owners trying to make picks and things like that. So we actually did last season's affiliate draft behind closed doors, like the startup was done, and then I did a poorly produced affiliation reveal for that one. But this one will be live, picks coming in um, live on air.
Sweet.
Oh, awesome, great progress.
So when I guess when you're looking, I guess when we look at post draft, once everyone's been drafted, do you feel like the players drafted are more reflective of like the overall and how the player plays, or more what the team needs? I don't know if that question made sense at all, but
Yeah, yeah, like I guess talking about like the order that the players are picked in,
yeah,
kind of.
like let's say Albuquerque's first 2 picks, are they going to be based like, do you think highest overall, or what they need? Maybe take a take some players that could have gone ninth or 10th, but to fill a higher need on the team.
Yeah, for sure. And like I guess going back further, like hockey, is kind of a sport where drafting for need isn't very common because it takes players so long to develop to get to the NHL in most cases. So you're not drafting for need unless your prospect pool is super shallow somewhere. But in our league, we've seen it kind of the other way because in the past, every draft has had most of the players going pro right away. So it has been very need driven.
Right.
And so that made it probably a little easy. Like I think last season, the experts I think did pretty good on the mock, or maybe not. I can't remember, but and other people doing mock drafts have had some success because it's been pretty easy to tell need and things like that. But now with the affiliate draft, it's going to be tough to tell if people are drafting for future needs or if they're just going to be taking kind of the best player available. Obviously, all kinds of other things play a role. The teams that need pro spots will obviously draft for those. But then, other than that, friendships and activity and all that stuff probably comes into effect even before goals and assists do in the minors.
Sweet. Awesome.
So when we think of the draft, we think of the pool of potential players, and you have the minor league system, which consists of people that are affiliated to professional teams or those that are not affiliated to a professional team, and then you have a segment of newcomers that haven't been assigned to any team yet. So I'm curious, like, what is the end goal of the draft? What does the draft accomplish, and how does that improve the league?
Yeah, I mean, as far as what it accomplishes, obviously, like a few teams will fill pro roster spots with it, but beyond that, it's kind of developing, I guess, those farm systems for these teams, right? They're going to draft players who will be waiting in the wings in case they lose somebody unexpected during the season or whatever the case might be. And one thing with what the affiliation portion of the draft really accomplishes, which is why, like, aside from the fact that it's fun to build a farm system and try to build a long-term program, aside from that, one thing that the affiliation draft was really implemented for was to give these players in the minors a little bit more involvement with the pro team. They get access to the pro locker room, trying to give them kind of an organization to lean on for help to learn and get involved with the league. Because in the early seasons, we noticed the minors players really weren't being that involved. Obviously, some still aren't. That's just the nature of the beast. Not everybody will be, but it's really come a long way to helping those players kind of have somewhere to, I guess, lean on it and go to for help or advice. They could go to their minors coach or their pro owner and kind of have multiple avenues there.
That's really interesting. If we were to compare cohorts of the early iteration of the league to now, where we have those affiliation and ties with a professional organization, perhaps we could see longer retention of those players. Could be
Mhm.
a data driven guess we can make.
For sure. And, like I was talking to David Hume, my assistant GM in Turku, a couple weeks ago, we were talking about this. And I noticed like now players are so, prideful about the minor, a lot of them are anyway, about the minor league team they play for, like go Tigers, go, even once after they've gone pro, they're cheering for the team that they played for at one time, tuning into those games. I'm seeing Jan Lashek and Bobby Brownstone, for example, cheering for the Tigers a lot. Brian Lickett was cheering for the Royals a lot. Whereas when I was talking to Hume, he couldn't even tell me the name of the minor league team he played on in season one because he
Hmm.
just, it wasn't at the level it's at now. So that's really been a priority for the league, I think, is developing that minor league system because eventually we can't keep expanding every season and we're going to need a league where these players can play if there's no openings in the pro league.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
S- Sweet. Diving deeper into that, I guess. What's the goal for the minors pro system? Is it going to be like an AHL, NHL style? Are you looking at more layers? What's your vision for it at the moment?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's going to be obviously very like numbers driven. But as we grow, I think the plan would be to have more of a NHL AHL system. That's kind of what the affiliation draft is. It's an early iteration of kind of having an American Hockey League and a place where players can develop and move up within the system. There has been some talk like if we don't expand for the next number of seasons, eventually players in the minors are going to be way better than the new players coming in after them. So at that point, we might look at having kind of a AHL and then like a junior league for new players or something like that. But that's all a number of seasons down the line. You never know what'll happen with the pro rosters and just the number of players we have. It's all really driven by that.
Cool.
And there's, a lot unknown, but if you had any, high level kind of expectations or predictions for this upcoming draft class, what would you kind of forecast?
Yeah, it's there's a lot of high end talent in this class. Not a whole lot of them are going to go pro, but yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting group of rookies. I think the draft production is going to be out of this world as well. But yeah, just in general for this draft class, I'm seeing a lot of players who are really committed to staying in the minors, even though the goal is to eventually get to pro. A lot of players are okay and even like hoping to stay in the minors, and seeing those players develop and become the future of the league is going to be I guess a really good success story, and seeing them succeed in the pro is going to be a lot of fun.
Excellent. Well, speaking of predictions, the next segment we have in order for you is going to have myself, Chewie, Escola, Leathers, Grims, and McRoss talking about our top 5 minor predictions for the upcoming draft. All right, and welcome back. We're here for our predictions of the upcoming draft class. We've got a great segment for you. It's basically broken down. We've got the top 5 picks, what we're calling our rank. We have Chewie, myself, Escola, Leathers, Grims, and McRoss, and we're going to be revealing these picks. And then we'll compare them to the actual picks at a later time. Follow up on Twitter. That's Rinkside GOHLS to connect with us on Twitter. So Chewie, we've got the first pick coming up. It's going to ABQ. Who's it going to be?
I don't remember my.
Oh yeah, here you go.
My bad. So yes, Timothy Alexander. Thank you. So big reason for me choosing Timothy Alexander here for Albuquerque. They went with Quando James Jr. and Matt Green a couple seasons ago, 2 big snipers. Quando ended up winning Rookie of the Year. He ended up getting cut this offseason, unfortunately, due to inactivity. So I could see Albuquerque wanting to replace that immediately. Having a sniper like Quando, having a player like that, I mean, developing your farm system and ready for a call up next season isn't a bad thing to have in your back pocket.
Exactly. And if I were to have something in my back pocket, I'd have myself a Magnus power forward who put up 9 goals, 7 assists for the Warlocks in the regular season. Power forward's the position I play. It's a taxing one, but it's one that demonstrates a commitment to putting the team above everything else. So I've got Magnus as number 1. Escola, let's move on to your pick.
Yeah, so I went with Jake Prudhomme, the big defensive defenseman. Kamenev has been pretty committed to building up the defense core there in Albuquerque for a while now, and I think adding somebody like Prudhomme is going to be a big help to that cause. And I don't know what it is about him, but he seems to score a heck of a lot for a defensive defenseman in the minors. So we'll see if he can carry that forward next season.
And for our next picks who aren't here, but I'll be shouting them out, Leathers has elected Andrew Payne, playmaker. Then we've got Jack Prudhomme, DFD, as well as Jack Prudhomme. So let's move on to number 2.
Yeah, number 2, I went with Stig Magnus, which I guess wouldn't make a difference since Albuquerque has both top picks. Reason for that, again, they're like Escola said, their defense are set. I don't think they need to focus too much on it. I mean, even if they lose one big defender, I think the time on ice that they'd be losing isn't as important as the forwards they need to build up to be able to score more. So I went with Stig. They need a defensive forward to help them on their PK, to help those help the guys not let in any penalty kill goals.
Great points. And we're aligned on the Stig. So, next up, I've got Jasper Meekinen. I always call him McConan. There's this rapper called I Love McConan. Some of his music's real bumping. but put up 8 goals, just a little bit under Stig. And, when you got the line above you with Vanya, Kovalchuk, Taylor Jean Reeves, there's a lot of pressure, but Mikkonen delivered throughout the season, and as highlighted in one of our plays of the week, continues to deliver. So I've got him as number 2.
Yeah, I'm the only one on this show apparently that doesn't have a warlock in the top 2, but I've got Alexander here falling, or not falling, but going to Albuquerque here. Like Chewie mentioned, it doesn't really matter. Albuquerque's got the top 2 picks. Cam's been pretty clear that whoever people predict him to take 1 and 2, even if they get them right, he's going to pick them in the opposite order just to mess with their predictions. So Timothy Alexander, all that Chewie said about him for the number 1 pick is kind of what I've got there. Plus, I think I've seen him chatting a little bit about some positive conversations with some teams near the top of the board. So I think he'll go here in the top 2 to Albuquerque.
All right, number 2, Mr. Alexander. And for Leathers, we've got Jack Prudhomme, Parker Minion, and for Grimm's Parker Minion, and for McRoss, the expert, Andrew Payne, coming in at number 2. So let's move on over to number 3. Chewie, you've got Andrew Payne.
Yeah, so with Turku, they've been pretty decent offensive for the first few seasons. This latest season, even though they played a lot better as a team, I feel like the offense just slowed down a lot, which it's not bad. So let's get that straight. But the scoring definitely went down, and I think bringing a guy like Andrew Payne will help that, especially in the minors, especially if they lose some forwards over the next few seasons. Their defense pretty much got set this offseason, so I don't see a reason to focus there. They made a couple trades, so I think the playmaker makes sense, especially to help out guys like Onni Eskola set up the plays and hopefully score more.
Great points. And I echo those the exact same. I got Andrew Payne as number 3. He is a right wing center, but he never really played center. That's why I had Mikkonen above him, because I think doing the face-offs is just a little bit harder than playing wing. But to each his own. I'm a little biased. Eskola, let's pull up your pick for number 3.
Yeah, so this is where I've got a warlock going. Full disclosure, obviously this is my own pick here. This is the one reason I almost chose to exclude myself from the predictions, because I am picking top 5. So I went with a very simple reasoning, just a connection here. Mikkonen's Finnish, Turku's based in Finland. Plus a playmaker would help. Obviously, face-offs has been a struggle for us for a number of seasons. Got a little bit better. So grabbing a playmaking center would be a huge addition to us. But like I said, I don't want to tip my hand too much. So I went with kind of a pretty basic need and the connection there being Finnish to Turku.
Well, it makes sense to me. Let's see if it makes sense to our panel. Oh, wrong button. Oh, wrong one. Here it is. We've got Dan Norris, offensive defenseman, picked by Leathers. Grims has Decky Pedersen, 2-way defenseman. And McRoss has Jerry Jackson, the offensive defenseman. Chewie, let's pull you in for pick number 4, going to the Redwater Undertakers.
Yeah, so I went with Jack Prudhomme. If he fell to 4th, I mean, that's impressive, but he will be the first D going, I believe. And Redwater just lost Simser, unfortunately, to a trade, and their trade piece left the league. So they have a big need there to fill defense and someone who can get called up right away. Jack Prudhomme, Redwater likes their enforcers, their defensive defensemen. So it seems like a perfect match here, and that's my pick.
Great pick. And I've got a little bit of a unique one here, but I've got Jerry Jackson going number 4. Let me tell you about Jerry Jackson. Jerry Jackson joined probably about halfway into the league, offensive defenseman on the Warlocks. That was kind of a unique position. Still put up 1 goal and 7 assists. The magical thing about JJ is in poise positions. I think he has a poise attribute stat out of the roof. It may not be represented in what's, on the document, but he scored the goal in Game 7 that won the entire championship for the Warlocks, and he just putted it in like Happy Gilmore. So I think that Jerry Jackson deserves number 4. What about you, Escola? Who do you got?
Yeah, I went a different route here. I penciled in Tom Adamo Jr. Of Malmo. Obviously, Redwater does need a defenseman, so I could very well see them going D here. But I decided to go a bit of a different way here and give them a forward and predict that they'll fill that D hole at number 10. There's a lot of good defensemen here in the draft. So, yeah, I've got Adamo Jr. here. He's very active, and I think he'd be a good fit for that Redwater organization.
Perfect. Best of luck to him. And we've got the panel coming in. Leathers, Dan Gleasack, enforcer defenseman, Grims, Jasper Meekinen, playmaker, and then McRoss with Lenny Lyons, two-way defenseman. So coming into our 5th pick, Chewie, we've got you at...
Yeah, so I went with Parker Minion here at number 5, playmaking center from the Manitoba Snowhawks. Looking at Melbourne, their D was pretty set from last season, and their forwards definitely could have used some work. I know they do need to fill out 2 defense in the draft to go pro, but I think a lot of people will be focusing on forwards early in the draft. So I think they can pick up someone that could play on their lower lines, taking faceoffs, which is something every team needs in this league. So I went with Parker Minion. If they end up going with a defense, I wouldn't be shocked considering they need to fill 2 D spots, and that's what I got there. And on my bingo card, I have Potty picking 5 Warsaw Warlocks. So if you pick here, I win. I win bingo.
Well, bingo it is, and it's interesting that you're talking about Melbourne wanting a defenseman, because I've got the best defenseman in the league with the highest potential. Robert Thump entered in like the game 14 or 13, went 0-0 in the regular season. But let me tell you this, Robert Thump was our only defenseman throughout 7 games in this series, and we won. There were tight times. He showed incredible potential. This is the pick you want. Number 5, Robert Thump.
Are you a salesman for Warsaw? Or
I think he's the agent for all these players.
Yeah, it sounds like it. This is the biggest hype I've seen.
It's all well deserved. All right, so coming in with Escola with number 5.
Yeah, so here's where I put in Dan Norris, the offensive defenseman off the Bucks. Like Chewie alluded to, Melbourne does need a defenseman or 2. I think 2 to go pro. An offensive one, I think, would fill some of the openings that they've got there. Obviously, they've got Gibson, the offensive defenseman, but having another offensive defenseman to go with them, and a guy who I think's got a ton of potential in Dan Norris, I think would be a solid pick here at number 5.
Actually, they have a player named Matthew Norris, so I wonder if there's any relation there.
Yeah, we might have to get another one of those first initial added to the jersey kind of things.
Yeah, some DNA tests.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. And following up with our panel, Leathers has Decky Pedersen, two-way defenseman. Grims has Damian Chambers, playmaker, and McRoss has Dan Gleasack, the enforcer defenseman. And that wraps up our rankings for today. Chewie, Escola, that was pretty awesome. I enjoyed that exercise. What did you think?
Yeah, it was good. It was good to see, where teams may be focusing on. Obviously, as an owner, I kind of do that to have an idea of what players will drop to me. Obviously, it's tough to predict where people go, because yeah, I think last season I was scrambling my draft board a couple times in the season before, so it was fun though. It was fun. Hopefully, I get some picks right.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. So thanks for having me on here. Like you said, as an owner, we're always kind of predicting what other teams are going to do, but you don't often like to tip your hand. So I usually let the experts kind of handle that pre-draft content and keep my cards close to the chest. But it was fun here, and we'll see how I do.
So confirmed, all your picks were to throw people off then.
Or maybe I'm throwing you off with that, and they're all Turku targets.
Oh man, damn it.
Well, it was a pleasure having you on, and thanks for joining us, you, the viewer, slash subscriber, if you click that button over there. And until the next one, this is Pawtai and Chewie and Eskola with the Rinkside.